Thank you to everyone who have come, some of you, a very long way to take part in the Bank of Korea International Conference. I've been on the other side a few times as well, and I think for this year, this is an especially impressive gathering. As Isabel will tell us shortly, central banks are facing many pressing short-term policy questions. We have inflation that's really too high, and I think this is where central banks really have to step up. But today, we will not only discuss the short-term policy challenges, but it's an opportunity for us to lift our eyes and to look at the central banking landscape in a broader context. And it's broader in two senses. So first of all, it's about the subject matter. So as you can see, the topic of this year's conference is very much a classical central banking topic, which is on the nature of money and the central bank's role in the monetary system. The other sense in which we are lifting our eyes is we will take a broader historical perspective as well. So not only are we going to look to the future, we are also going to learn lessons from the past. And as they say, the further you want to look ahead, the further you have to look back. And I think this is a lesson that, Tom, you have taught us over many years. What I will do is I will reserve the substantial questions for the discussion that I will be having with all of you, especially in the policy discussion with Isabel Schnabel shortly. But what I want to do is just to give you an overview of the conference as a whole, because you can see that the Bank of Korea staff have put in a lot of effort and have given this a great deal of thought on how to shape the program in a way that's going to do justice to many of these questions. Now, if we look at history, and we will do this especially tomorrow, the lessons that we have to bear in mind as we introduce innovation to the monetary system were already there hundreds of years ago when the first proto-central banks really emerged. So central banks have their history in the way that they supported the payment system. And I think there's a very strong argument that the origin of central banks has to do with payments and settlements. And in that sense, the modern topic of innovation in the monetary system is really a very classical central banking topic. Of course, technology is going to be very important, and we will see some very important technological discussions today and also tomorrow. But the technology alone is not going to solve all our problems. I think we need to keep some of the deeper lessons in mind. And I think one key lesson that we have to bear in mind is that money is a social institution. So money is not about technology. It's really about how we as a society coordinate our economic activity. So in that sense, money is fundamentally a coordination device. And in that sense, it's like speaking a common language. So just as a common language enables all kinds of social interactions, it enables the division of labor, it enables the division of roles, and makes the economy more efficient, money is there to essentially serve as a coordination device for economic and financial decisions. And of course, trust is fundamental to all of that. So it has to be the case that the users trust that when they receive a payment, that they can actually turn around and send a payment in the expectations that other people will do the same. So I think when we debate the role of money and the future of the monetary system, I think we have to bear in mind this fundamental question: what is the best way of preserving trust in money itself? And I think the lecture that Rob Townsend will give tomorrow is going to, I think, give us some theoretical foundations for that. But he's also going to tell us about some of the innovations that many central banks have introduced that preserves that spirit of the role of money, but especially Project Hangang, which is the project on wholesale central bank money in tokenized form that is going to really be the next generation of the two-tier monetary system. Now, this morning we're going to start with Isabel Schnabel's keynote, and you'll see some very familiar themes in Isabel's presentation. In fact, it's really going to be the continuation of what I've just said. How do we preserve trust? How do we take the two-tier monetary system with the central bank as the foundation to the next level? Then there's going to be a policy dialogue between Isabel and me, and here we're going to come right down to earth, and we'll discuss some monetary policy, some very pressing monetary policy issues. And you can imagine that just as there are very active discussions on monetary policy here in Korea, this is something that's going on all around the world. And Europe has some similarities with Korea, although there are also some differences. And tomorrow we'll also have a panel, and we're very, very pleased to have Neil Kashkari here. Thank you for coming, Neil. And we can also see the global dimension, especially with what's going on in the US. Now, the first session after the policy discussion is going to be from my friend and colleague Tobias Adrian from the IMF. And Tobias is going to lift our eyes in yet a third dimension, which is how do we incorporate financial stability reasoning when we conduct monetary policy. So as you know, Tobias has been one of the leaders in incorporating financial stability considerations in macroeconomic models. And we'll see how his model can shed light on how easy financial conditions can build up, can contribute to the building up of vulnerabilities, and how the tail risks can actually then be realized, subject to a shock. In the session after that, my friend and colleague Markus Brunnermeier is coming back to the innovation topic. He's going to talk about a trilemma when designing a digital monetary system. And privacy turns out to be a very, very important component of that trilemma. The session after that is going to be presented by Michael Weber. And as we know, central bank communication is extremely important for the conduct of monetary policy. And he has some very, very important findings on the perceptions of central bank independence and how in various surveys, in macro surveys, the answers very much depend on the preconceived notions that the respondents have, in particular, their political leanings. So I think this is a case where we really have to take the findings with a great deal of context in order to really bring the lessons to a useful level. So that closes the session today, but tomorrow we have Rob Townsend's lecture, and I would especially recommend that you take note of that. And I mentioned history and Tom Sargent's work. Well, tomorrow we will have a session on the South Sea bubble. And you may know Tom's work with Francois Welder on the big problems with small change. So, money, of course, has been around as long as economics has been around, and that's basically as long as people have been around. And yes, of course, things change, and there are new problems that are thrown up with each age. But of course, some of the lessons are really age-old. And Francois will tell us about the fiscal dimension. So, the fiscal monetary interaction is as old as money itself. We'll learn something about how that transpires. Then we have Sofia Kazinek, who will tell us about AI and the application of AI to central banking. And this is a lesson that's which touches us here at the Bank of Korea particularly well, because we have an in-house AI system that we've developed, in-house sovereign AI, that ticks all the boxes in terms of the security requirements. And it's still in very early stages, but I think it's going to be very interesting for us to compare the experiences across central banks. And then finally, Rob will be chairing a policy panel. And just to conclude, and I think that will be a session that will be that you cannot miss. I think it's going to be a fitting way to close out these 2 days. So you can see that we have a very rich agenda ahead of us. So you will want to get to that rather than hear me carry on further. So I'm going to leave the stage, and we can go straight to the first session. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Governor.